good evening to you, Glue Troopers. Max and Max's Models here. First off, I did get a package from Mr. Jordan, and I want to thank you for that, sir. We're going to talk about something that happened with that. It got rerouted for a while. He sent me a couple of models, both by testers. He sent me this Newport, and I don't know if I had a Newport in the collection or not. And he also sent me this Ryan PT20, which I had mentioned earlier that the SBD Dauntless by Monogram is a kit I probably built the most, and I think this Ryan is a quick second place to it. I don't know how many times I've built the kit, at least 4, but I'll bet more. And it was just one of those kits that was always available. So thanks for that. And I actually found one of the old ones that I had. It was in the junker box. The decals had flaked off. It had gotten destroyed in the shelf collapse, I think. There were actually 2 of them in there when it happened. So thank you for that, Mr. Jordan. And about what happened in the shipping, there's an address that we use for shipping if you have to use FedEx, UPS, or DHL because they need the physical building address. But if you're sending regular mail, just send it to the P.O. box, which is here. And that'll be fine if you're using regular post. So, went off to Hurricane Hobbies, got stocked up on some paints I needed, mostly for the Stukas, and then got back to work. I did not get a chance to do any more work on the 1/32 scale Stuka, but I did pretty much finish off the Pro Modeler Stuka. Wasn't everything I hoped it would be, did not come out as well as I'd liked, and there are a lot of little things to talk about. One of them is the Pro Modeler. They're not kidding. It has a lot of extremely tiny parts, like the shackles for the drop tanks. These parts are virtually microscopic. They're literally so small you can't pick them up with tweezers. You have to use something like tape or something to pick them up. And a few other teeny tiny parts. Somehow the landing light went walkabout on me, the landing light cover, but I was able to fabricate one out of a piece of clear rod, which, by the way, later on, just after I took all the photos while I was handling, I managed to push that down into the wing. So at some point I have to fabricate another one. And there's a lot to unpack with this kit. One of the things I was really kind of disappointed in was the canopy. And I'll tell you why. This is an advanced kit, and I highly recommend that you go ahead and get a mask for it, because as I mentioned earlier, it has very faint canopy markings, and that is because they're done in scale. It doesn't have the thick, heavy ones that are easy to trace out and trim off, which although it makes it easier to mask it with regular tape, because you have a big thing sticking out that you can burnish down and then trim out using as a guide. You don't have that on this airplane because those big, thick canopy rails on the older kits are not scale. They're much too big. So this kit, get a mask for it. Also, I was building this thing fairly quickly, and I didn't appreciate just how fine some of the stuff was. I had at least 3 tiny parts I remember removing those sprues, seeing them sitting on the table. When I went to look for them, they weren't there. Tore the TARDIS apart, couldn't find them. Nothing that you really notice, so I wasn't worried about it. It's more of an annoyance than anything else. But as you all know, my standard is it looks good on the shelf, and it does. It's going to look fine from a distance. One of the things that broke on it was the tail wheel. It had a really nice, highly detailed tail wheel, and I don't know how. I was very careful with it, but you know how fragile tail wheels are. So I had to go through my spares box, and luckily the tail wheel to, of all things, the UH-60 Blackhawk in 1/48 scale was pretty close match. So I bored out a hole for it, and it's in there, and let's hope that doesn't break. But although it looks fine on the shelf, I'm not unhappy with it. I'm a little disappointed in myself. It just didn't come out quite as good as I'd hoped. And I think what happened was once I started breaking or losing some of the small parts, and a little frustration sets in, and I'm thinking, if I get this one and the other one done, I'll have 3 Stukas for the 3-of-a-kind builds. And you sort of start to lose focus. You lose patience with it. And I can see where I started getting in a bit of a hurry. But ironically, the poorer fit of the big 1/32 scale model, which I did not have a chance to work on today, actually is a little more in my wheelhouse. The parts are bigger. I can see what I'm doing. And since the kit is it really all that super detailed? I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm more relaxed about it. But one thing about the Pro Modeler kit is that even though it's not mentioned anywhere in the instructions, you have these, what I believe are the Jericho horns, and they're molded onto the landing gear, but they're not in the instruction sheet. I elected to leave them off, although you can put them on. So the model came together, and the whole. Of course, it does not come with pilot figures. I did mount the drop tanks on it to do something different, and that is a lot of extra work. If you want to save yourself some work, just put the little small bombs on the wingtips. By the way, the racks. This is something I found interesting. Again, this is an advanced model. You have to drill a lot of your own holes, and they're not marked despite what they show in the instruction sheets. You need to get out your pin vise and drill mounting holes. In my case, I just elected to go ahead and scrape off the nibs and glue them in place and just eyeball it. And it looks okay, but it's with the antenna on the belly and a few other things. Some of them have little marks on them that, okay, here's where it goes in, and some of them don't. And that's probably because it's designed to be able to be arranged several different ways. So I have a feeling that this kit was probably used for another version. That's why it's got the extra parts in it that are not in Monogram's instruction sheet. But still, it is an excellent kit. It's not for a beginner. A lot of teeny tiny parts, and at 1/48 scale, that gets to be almost nightmarish. A hard to mask off canopy, and it's definitely for the Pro Modeler, but it's going to look good on the shelf. Ironically, when I lost the tail wheel, I had that Stuka from Lindbergh, which is obviously a much easier build, even though lower detail. And I was thinking, of course, the tail wheel is the one thing that was missing off of it. But it's just funny how I did find its propeller, which which is the one thing I didn't need, but it probably would have fit. Yeah, that's why you never throw broken models away. You never know what you're going to cannibalize off of them. So anyway, it is definitely the kind of kit for the guy who knows what he's doing. Don't give this to a kid. If you want to give a kid a Stuka, give them the Lindbergh kit. It goes together without any arguments, fewer parts, no real tiny parts, and it makes an okay looking model when it's done. I got to give Lindbergh credit. It's really, except for the devoid of interior detail, and if it's going to sit on the shelf or the kid's going to play with it, that's fine. This is for the guy. This Pro Modeler kit is for the person who wants to go out and win some contests. And I would say the most nerve-wracking part was those tiny little mounting hinges on the drop tanks. Although I'm not sure there was actually drop tanks. I think they were actually long-range tanks. I'm not sure if they could be dropped or not in flight. They don't really look like a droppable type. I think they were just long-range tanks that could be removed by the maintenance crew, but I don't know. They were referred to as drop tanks in the material, so who's to say? Anywho, guys, so there we have it. Again, a big thanks to Mr. Jordan for the kits. As you can tell, I decided not to do a live stream tonight. Just too many things going on. I have to leave tomorrow. So this will probably be the last bit of content for a while. So, guys, take care of yourselves. I hope you're doing well. And as always, model on.